This mutation is called Railroad Switch, and it is being played on Oblivion Express. There will be a lot of switching going on, and the commanders may just get railroaded into moving their armies around the map frantically. We have two mutators active, we have Polarity, and we have Just Die, two of the nastiest mutators that you can get. Actually, no, you know what? The Heroes of the Storm mutator is probably worse, but that was just newly added. These ones are really old mutators that have been there for a very long time, and they are relatively nasty over here. So I want to talk about Just Die and Polarity on this map. Blizzard has reworked this mutator interaction on this map. So prior to this weekly mutation, this was before, I believe, a few months ago. The way this mutator would work is the trains would obviously respawn, but each of the train carriages had their own unique polarities. So what this means is that both the commanders could deal damage to the trains at the same amount of time. But due to the rework, what happens now is the entire train has one polarity, which means that the commanders will have to individually DPS the trains down, and then they'll respawn, and then the polarity will switch over to the other commander, which in turn means that every single commander, like every single player here, will have to take out each one of these trains by themselves, and then it gets passed on to the other players. So that is what makes this mutator combination incredibly difficult on this mission. Let's just quickly have a look at the masteries over here. We can see that we have the orbital drop speed mastery over here. We have the Banshee cooldown, and we have the medic healing as well. Additionally, for Phoenix, we have the energy regeneration and the AI attack speed, and there's a small split between the chrono boost and the starring supply. This split is basically just to allow you to macro up, and it saves you from building a pylon a little bit early while you go for a Taldaran opener, which is relatively supply intensive. As we can see over here, Raynor has already put down his command center, and there's Taldaran over here, and he will be clearing up the rocks, and then he will be transferred over here to clear Raynor's rocks as well. And as you can see, Raynor does want to get his economy up and running. This mission becomes incredibly difficult once the double train wave starts spawning, and you need a very, very strong economy to support that kind of damage output. One of the things that does make it difficult is because you have no help from your allies' army in taking out the trains, and you have to take the trains out twice. You do need to have enough damage output to take out the train within a reasonable amount of time, because otherwise your ally is not going to have enough time to clear the train out himself. So there is a lot of pressure on both the commanders over here. You can see over here Phoenix just kiting, just allowing the Banshee airstrike to take out these zealots over here. Taldaran is chilling over here now, just looking around, taking a look at the rocks he's just broken up, and as you can see here, we are dealing with a Protoss composition, and this Protoss composition is the Masters and Machines, so Immortal, Colossus, High Templar. This is basically a gateway composition. The other thing to note here is because Just Die is active, you can see some bunch of Spire Mines over here instantly taking out a number of units from this attack wave. Phoenix now uses his solar flare and instantly clears out a lot of the escort units in this attack wave here, and this has been relatively held out. It's been held out relatively well. Hyperion comes down here just to help Raynor deal the initial damage to the strain. Remember, Phoenix cannot help his ally right now in taking out the strain. He will have to take out the strain by himself, so very important for Raynor to take out the strain as quickly as possible to give his ally a little bit of a chance here. And there's a ping here saying, I've taken out the strain, and the Hyperion now goes in here to intercept this next attack wave that has spawned. There are two goals here. The first goal is to stall this attack wave while Phoenix takes out this train, because he has his two champions out, but it'll take him a little while to get this train out of the way and reposition his army so that he can deal with this next attack wave. Because remember, this attack wave has Polarity and it has Just Die, so each player will have to take out every single one of these units once. So there is a little bit of harass here from some of these Polarity units. Raynor unfortunately cannot take this out. Phoenix jumps into the fray here just to try and change these polarities on these units, so these Spire Mines can deal a little bit of damage to these units here. So that is what the goal is, and most of these units are gone now, and Phoenix just pulls back. There is another attack wave now that has spawned on the top, and will be headed towards the Allies base. As we can see here, 3 units, 3 Zealots are Polarity, then the other one is not. Phoenix just jumps in. Remember here now, when this unit dies, its Polarity will change, and which means there is probably 3 more Zealots that are still waiting for Raynor to, you know, quote-unquote kill before Phoenix can take those out. The attack wave is relatively small, 1-1 attack wave, so very little problems for the Allies here. And now the next train will be spawning. We can see over here that Phoenix is slowly starting to wrap up his production, and same thing for Raynor over here as well. He has gone for his starport, and very important to slowly wrap up production and make sure that you have enough economy behind it to support that kind of production, because the later stages of this game is going to get very difficult. Phoenix jumps into the front here, again just changing the polarities of these units so that the Spire Mines can deal damage to the units over here. And this is Phoenix's train, and Phoenix will have to solo destroy this train in a reasonable amount of time before Raynor will be able to take this out. At the back here, I think there's just 1 Spire Mine. There are a bunch of Vultures and Siege Tanks here that Raynor will be using to eventually deal damage. There's a little bit of Star Step here as well to take this out. One important thing to note is notice how there are 2 things at play here. One thing is focus firing down damage onto a single train carriage is almost always the best thing to do. So when you focus your damage down on a single train carriage, you increase the amount of damage due to how the triggers work. The other thing that is also important to note is you may have noticed the Warbringer having DPSing the other train carriages down. So one thing I have noticed is that the AI sometimes does not, even if you A-click a single train carriage, the AI may not actually target that train carriage over here. So it's just important to pay attention to if you are playing this mutation, especially when playing to the maximum efficiency is probably what will be required if you want to be able to beat this mutation. So try and focus down single train carriages. That will make a huge difference in the amount of damage you deal. It's just purely through how the game is programmed. It doesn't really make sense unless you take a look at how the triggers work, but it is true. Focusing down a single train carriage does lead to more damage being dealt, and that is not from your units, it's just the damage that's being recorded on the rest of the train. That's basically what it is. As you can see over here, there's a lot of storms coming out here. Just Die is extremely annoying with this kind of composition, because when a High Templar is respawned from the Just Die mutator, it regenerates its energy and will start spamming its storms as well. So you basically have twice the number of High Templars and therefore twice the number of storms that will be coming out, and that is also a very annoying issue that has to be dealt with. So this next attack wave is, again, this escort wave is kind of small, but we have a Guardian Shell now that's been coming out here for the Conservator Field that comes down here for Phoenix. Just keeping these units alive. The Conservator Field reduces the amount of damage that's being dealt to all these units. And as you can see here, it's by 35%. It is a significant chunk of damage that gets reduced. And very important to have that, because it will keep your army alive and will reduce loss. But at the same time, it means that the enemy units that are attacking your units, it gives them a little bit more tankiness, and you can keep your valuable units behind. So Raynor has taken out that train. Now it's Phoenix's turn to deal damage to that train, and that train will go down relatively quickly. As you can see over here, Phoenix is actually adding some more Immortals to the mix as well into his army. He needs a few more Immortals to just deal damage to these armored units over here. Production-wise, both commanders are going for their upgrades, and they're trying to upgrade and climb up that tech tree as quickly as possible. That damage output is going to make a huge difference to the player's units. Another thing to note over here is the bonus train will also respawn with Just Die. It is just completely not worth going for that bonus objective, especially considering the amount of pressure that the players that you will be under when you are dealing with this. There is a little pain here. Phoenix just going to pull his army back and let the siege tank line shred these units here at the back. Another storm goes down. 3 storms, 4 storm, 5 storms, and this is why gateway compositions are ridiculously annoying with the Just Die mutator. High Templars will consistently spam and will spam their storms on your army, so you can try and micro as much as you can, but the High Templar AI is just going to keep spamming the storms. The one thing which you guys can let me know in the comments what you think, but the one thing I have noticed is that sometimes it's just better to sit and eat that storm instead of trying to micro. It seems counterintuitive, but it means that the High Templars will only storm your army once instead of the 5 or 6 times that you saw over there. I'm not really sure whether it does mitigate the amount of damage that it deals, but I have found that, you know, just getting hit by one storm is significantly better, while it gives you a little bit more time to take out the enemy attack waves and the High Templars. This is the double train wave, which means that this is a massive attack wave, or a massive escort wave for this train, which does make this a little bit more scary, because there will be High Templars here, and they'll be more than happy to storm your army. Raynor takes out that train relatively quickly, and so does Fenix, but remember that this is considered a solo train, which means the amount of HP that it has is half the amount of HP that a train would normally have, and this is basically made for a single commander to solo. So this is why the trains went down relatively quickly. Trains have two different kinds of triggers that will spawn them. One is a solo train, and one is a double commander train, which is a train intended for two commanders to attack. So these trains are solo trains. Some other trains, as you'll notice, have significantly more HP, are considered double commander trains, which means you are expected to have you and your ally help. And now combine that with the fact that you now have Just Die and Polarity, where only a single commander is allowed to DPS the trains, and you can imagine why this Mutator challenge is significantly more difficult and significantly annoying. I'm not really much of a fan of Polarity. Just Die is kind of okay. I find it a little bit cheap. Fenix recalls over here, getting both the armies in position, and they are able to engage this attack wave. Again, Conservative Field comes down to keep these units alive, and there are a few losses here due to the High Templars. We have a stasis that comes down here on these High Templars just to stall them, while the armies just take care of the rest of this, and Fenix jumps into the front here, just taking out whatever he can of the High Templars, and now this is Raynor's department here to take the rest of these High Templars out. There's one more High Templar that goes here, but it just ends up going down to the rest of the army over here. And conservative fields are very important. It just keeps these armies alive. These units are expensive, very fragile, but they do have a lot of damage output, which is exactly what you need in this kind of mutation. Only thing is, you have to try and keep them alive. Both commanders are getting closer to the supply cap right now. Fenix at 183 supply and Raynor at 178 supply. And unit-wise, there is a lot of mech units here from Raynor. His medics have the mastery that will allow them to just get the extra heals. I'm not sure whether that would have been my course of action. I think I would have maybe gone for the mech attack speed if you were using the mech units to deal damage. As you can see here, there's a lot of little micro coming out from the commanders, but there's just so many storms, and it just becomes almost impossible to try and dodge, because as you try and micro out of the way, the High Templar is going to spawn. It's just going to like storm your army again. So this is why I generally prefer to just sit in the storm and just eat that storm, while the High Templars just get focus fight down. But yeah, do let me know in the comments what you think. I'm not really sure what the correct course of action is. I have stood by the idea of standing by and just eating the storm, but seeing this mutation as well, seeing the amount of damage that the armies have been taking, it does seem to be not ideal. But again, I am not sure. Do let me know in the comments what you guys think about that. There's a hybrid destroyer over here that's focusing down this pylon. But Fenix is just on it here now, and will end up taking this out. And now this hybrid will get killed by Raynor's massive Banshee army over here. You can see the cloak on the Banshees here also being used to increase their range. The cloak does increase its range by 2, so that is very, very useful for Raynor's army. Just keeps his Banshees out of the way, keeps them safe and behind the rest of his army while Fenix engages. Fenix is considered kind of the tank over here. He is supposed to be absorbing and soaking up a lot of the damage here, but now the Colossi have the extended thermal lance upgrade, which makes them significantly more nasty as well. It gives them an increased range, but now since the Colossi are only by themselves, the Banshees can go ahead and gobble up all these Colossi without any problems. And with the Just Die Mutator active, Polarity switch, and Fenix cleans up the rest of the Colossi. Armies come up to huddle up over here, and Fenix just mass recalls the entire double army here. That is almost, I would say, like maybe about 300 supply of army over there that is being used just with the mass recall here, and they just completely stomp out Amon's escort wave. There's pretty much nothing left over here. There's a High Templar that's sneaking its way around here now because it wants to spam its storms, because that is what High Templars do. But now this train again is this train is considered a double commander train. As you can see, it is soaking up a lot of damage over here. Unfortunately, each of these commanders will have to solo DPS these trains down, but both the commanders are at very high level upgrades. They are at already level 3 upgrades, and the damage output here pretty much maxed out armies on this side. They'll be able to take out that train relatively quickly, but now we have another train down here that needs to be addressed, and this one is Raynor's train. So again, there's a little bit of a zealot here that is causing a little bit of a problem, but it gets focused down here by the sieged up siege tanks, and that goes down. Fenix over here is moving in front, trying to dodge some of these storms over here. Fenix is running in front here, just trying to soak up some of this damage. As you can see, the amount of damage that these storms do, it deals a lot of damage. It's not a small amount of damage that can be ignored, but what can you do about it? I don't know if there is any other way. Like, feedbacks are really great for these High Templars, but does make it a little bit more tricky. There is a double army over here. Again, a bunch of High Templar Storm goes down on these units, and now there is an attack wave that is making its way towards the player's expansions. But that train gets taken out, and now it's both these commanders' goal to try and clear out this little bit of a harass on this side. Because this train went down, these escorts disengaged, and now they have been given attack command towards this expansion here, which is causing a bit of a problem. This attack wave is relatively massive. It has not been addressed yet by the commanders, and it will start hammering away down on Fenix's base on this side. Fenix uses his Cyberus Arbiter and draws his mass recall over here. Conservative field instantly goes down to mitigate the amount of damage that has been dealt. Unfortunately, the storms are money storms on these High Templars, and there's a lot of damage output. A total of about 30 supply was lost here from Raynor, and about the same for Fenix, but that is okay. Both the commanders have very strong economies right now, and they are maxing out their production here. And Fenix as well has lost a few of these probes here, has not noticed that, but Fenix is flowing a lot of gas right now. Additionally, this is the last train, so this is the final Hail Mary. There will be an attack wave that will be coming up from this side, so both commanders are trying and focus down that train as quickly as possible before that attack wave starts to engage the army. As you can see over here, tons of storms going down, and that is causing a lot of bombs. Fenix is dropping in supply a lot over here. Raynor relatively okay. His army is tucked away at the back here and relatively safe. Fenix has lost a total of 50 supply on this side because there is a lot of nasty stuff that has spawned here. But Fenix will be okay. He is still trying to focus down this attack wave because his goal now is to just deal with this attack wave before the train changes polarity like so. And now Fenix is just going to focus fire down this train because that attack wave is very scary. There's a Banshee airstrike that comes down here to try and stall this attack wave, and Fenix is just focusing down this train because that is his goal. That is Fenix's train. If Fenix does not get this train, the commanders will have to deal with the next train, and it might potentially mean that they will lose the mission because that next train is going to be really difficult to take out. But that last train does finally end up going down, and that is the last train gone, and that is GG.